We're just here for a conversation. And the fun thing is today is about the art of conversation. My name is Lori Power. My company is MP Benefits, and I'm a group benefit consultant. Every week, I like to talk shift. I like to talk to interesting people like Shawna and get to know everybody and have great conversations, because we will grow and learn and prosper together the more that we are sharing in an open context. So Shawna was very gracious to come on in the springtime, and we talked about public relations. We talked about protection of the reputation, and I had warned her at that time I wanted to bring her back and really delve into the art of communication. I believe that communication, the ability to have that conversation, the ability to meet your audience where they are, is probably our secret weapon in any business as a leader. Shawna, can you take a few moments first, for those who may not know you, give a bit of a biography on yourself, introduce yourself, and then we can get into how you do what you do and why.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Lori. And it is a pleasure to be invited to come back here again. I recognize, I think, Nicole, were you on the first one? And I think, yes, Willow, maybe even Jane. The names are really familiar. It is a pleasure. Thank you. Again, Shawna Randolph. I live in St. Albert, Alberta, in the capital region. And I have been in the communications, as I call it, culture for about 30 years, both in television journalism and media relations, public relations. I spent half of my career in the media, the other half focusing on coaching people and being a spokesperson and helping people protect their reputation and be better communicators. So I call myself quite a well-rounded, but not one specific guru, I think. So what I really do right now is, again, just really helping my clients, as I said, protect their reputation and really help them. And so this is why it's so timely, Lori, when you asked me, is really help them be better communicators, whether it be within your own family. That's not what I coach, but that's what I think we're going to talk about in a bit today. But preparing for a business meeting, preparing for a public presentation, a speech, part of a conference, a media interview, and really focusing on getting your message out, understanding your audience, and that sort of thing. And it's so rewarding. I've again, focusing mainly on media relations, but whenever I also see someone at a conference that I've coached, it's just as rewarding as when I see them being interviewed in the media. So I don't know, I'm pretty general here, Lori. I mean, CTV is where I worked, and I was a spokesperson for the City of Edmonton Transportation Department, the Edmonton Humane Society. One of my main clients right now is the City of Edmonton. I've been their official media relations trainer for about 15 years. And I have many, many other clients, but that's really what I focus on now. I feel like I'm rambling a bit.
I think no, you're not rambling. I could say that there's probably a lot of very interesting stories on preparing somebody, on the simple faux pas that we get caught into, and we start down that avenue, and then it just tangles itself up. And sometimes we were talking, Shawna, when we were prepping, is it starts in the family too. You could be sitting across the table, just getting over a day, and something comes out, you try to reel it back, it spins out of control, and all of a sudden everybody's up in arms.
So true. I mean, everybody here, has that happened? I mean, everybody must put up your hands at least once, right? And then you go, oh, I just wish I thought before I opened my mouth, right? It's so easy. It's the emotions, Lori. That's what it is. It really is. If you're not focused on what you're going to say, your emotions will take over and get you in a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. I love the acronym that you've given me, and I do use it now all the time. And it's the THINK acronym. Take us through what think, if you have the one takeaway that you can think.
Okay, I will. Just a little quick story behind that. So yes, I'm a communicator, very good professional communicator, but I'm not so good around the house sometimes. And I'm reminded that often, where my husband just says, you did it again. You started talking and you weren't even thinking. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. And he said, can you just take the time and think before you speak? And I thought, okay, I really want to work on this. For some reason, it's just not so good in my personal life. What can I do? And I did some searching in that, and I came across the acronym THINK. And when I read it and broke down what what this whole article was saying, it just made sense. So this is what I said to Lori, and she's like, yeah, let's use this. Everybody just think about the word. So T. So this is what I've been doing, is before I spout off about something that, if there's a conversation going on and I just want to jump in, it's like, before I speak, is what I'm going to be saying a true fact? Is it true? Is it accurate? Because how many times have people said, yeah, there's this and this, and it's like, that's not true. And then you feel so stupid. So T, true, accurate. H, honest, is what I'm about to say. Is it really, are you being honest? That's huge. And then the third one here, I haven't used for myself personally so much, but inspiring. If you have an opportunity before you're going to say something, will it inspire someone? That would be very beneficial. But the ones for me that I bank on all the time, I just go right to them. The N in the K is, before I speak, is what I'm about to say necessary? Do I really need to say what I want to say? And then the last one, K, kind. And oh my gosh, has it ever made a difference? Like my husband and my boy, they're interested in a particular sport, and they get off about it. And I thought I heard something, and in the past I'd go, yeah, so and so, blah 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 blah, and they look and they go, like, that guy's retired, just little things like that. And I go, oh, okay, so that wasn't true. So anyway, yeah, is it true? Is it honest? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And I think it definitely makes a difference. I caught myself many times, especially the necessary, going, yeah, I don't really need to say what I want to say. So that's what I shared with Lori.
You know what, it is inspiring to have that acronym to rely upon, because it's easy to pull up in your head. It's easy to take a breath, and it makes something that we can all apply very easily. Nicole and I have been going on a journey of kindness and bias. And I did a presentation yesterday that was out of the United States. And I was really careful. I had to apply this a lot because I had to be very careful not to take a Canadian scope. I had to take a generalized benefit scope for it. But one of the universal messages that you can share is it kind? Are you being kind to people who are actually trying to help you when you know they're trying to help you? If somebody's reaching out to do something, are you being kind and reciprocating that back and forth? Let's begin at the beginning, as you as a consultant going in to work with somebody and meeting them where they are and then coaching them through what they need from you. Where does that journey start?
You know what? It really starts with the audience. And so many times people have said to me, I just wish I knew more of who I was speaking to. And I have to actually remind them, okay, before you pick up the phone to talk to a client, before you're going to have a business meeting and you want to pitch something to your supervisor of a new program you want or whatever, before you're going to do a meeting interview, before you're going to do a speech or whatever, take the time, about who is this main audience that we're going to be speaking to. Too many times people just go, they go head on into a meeting and they're not connecting. It's very important to be well aware of not so much the demographic, but like who are the people with their vested interest, right? And then to try to think like them. So if I want to pitch something to my boss, what do I know that my boss expects? Does he expect me to come forward with a solution to a problem? As most bosses do, like try to think like you understand. And if you don't fully understand the particular person, do your best for research. If I'm speaking to a group of seniors about a particular thing, try to do your best to try to think the best way that they can, understand them. And then to also think, okay, what are their needs? What do they possibly expect out of you speaking to them? So if you're calling a client and you know a client is upset about something, to think in advance, what does this client have for potential expectations? Whether you can meet them or not, but to think, okay, what does this client potentially need before I'm going to interact with them? Or what does this particular group audience need that they want from me speaking? I think that's the best way to start, is understanding your audience and trying to connect with them. You're not going to get it right all the time, but boy, it's a lot better of an outcome than just going in cold.
Well, it's a bit of a discovery process, no matter which industry you're in. You have to discover who the client is that you're going to be working with. And as a communication expert, that discovery process must be just ingrained in every fiber of conversation that you have. So, if I'm going to do like you said, if somebody's going to do a conference, that's an entirely different audience than working with the media. Where do you find people trip up most times?
When they don't do preparations, Lori. Like specifically for media interviews, people say to me, yeah, I was interviewed by so-and-so and it didn't turn out anything like I thought. And I said, did you do did you ask them any questions before the interview? Well, no, you mean I can? Yeah, you can, and you should. But that's a whole other thing where people are, generally pretty intimidated by the media, and I help them get through the mindset of, no, you don't have to drop everything just the minute that they call you or show up, and to be respectful of timelines and that sort of thing. But I think that's the biggest thing, where there is no preparation and people don't realize that they should.
What are
ask
some
questions?
Yeah, what kind of questions? Because I would be one of those people. I would be like, oh my God, somebody wants to interview me. All right then.
Well,
what kind of questions should a person ask?
Okay, so let me just give you an idea for media, and then to kind of transition to give suggestions for like a business meeting. So generally, and there's a lot of comparison. So for a media interview, it's like, number one, well, who are you? Because people say, I've been interviewed by who? Well, she had dark hair. I think she was with Global. They had no idea who they just did an interview with, which is crazy. But like, okay, who? And then, what's your deadline? And then I always say to them, well, just ask not only how did the story come, like what's the story you're working on, but how did you come about it? Like many times people will be doing an interview, they have no idea that this particular special interest group has put out a news release, and then the reporter throws it at them. So this particular group put this news release out today, and they're upset about this. How do you respond to that? I always say they're not going to tell you everything, but if you don't ask anything, they won't tell you anything. Just ask and you'd be surprised what you get. Like just ask, what's the focus? How did you find out about it? Who else are you talking to? And if you're lucky, someone will even tell you, well, what are they saying? Like, what am I responding to in advance? So it's just a matter of just asking those basic questions, right? And so preparing for a business meeting, like you can even ask your supervisor or a coworker, so what's the feeling here? What are people saying about this? Do you think they might be happy if we're proposing a new microwave in the food room, or do people want a toaster oven or something? Like, gosh, the things I think about, I don't know, just throw them out of thin air here. But like, just to do like the basic ask around, because you'd be surprised what you would learn before doing it. Just again, too many people, they just dive in. I'm going to a meeting and this is what I want to say, and they're not thinking again about what is the pulse and what could potentially be on other people's minds.
And understanding that communication means that somebody has to not only listen, but they actually have to hear, comprehend what you're putting out. In talking to you, one of the things that has really hit home with me is that I think sometimes we assume an adversarial relationship that isn't there. And so our approach sometimes becomes adversarial. Somebody's going to try to get me, so I'm going to be on guard. Whereas where you're saying, ask those questions ahead of time and don't go in, because the media is not looking to make an adversary of you. They're looking for information. They know they're going to get more, with the carrot rather than the stick. Is that a good rule of thumb for the most part?
I think so for sure, Lori. Like especially when you were first talking about that, I wasn't even thinking media. I was thinking, because you brought it back at the end, I was thinking more of general conversation, general communication, where you're ready to have a one-on-one with a coworker, and you think they feel a certain way. You're just assuming, as you said, that they might be upset. A great way to start when you're going in and you're just unsure about something is to just say, very pleased to have this opportunity to chat about this. Let me hear it from you first. So giving them the respect of, tell me what's on your mind, tell me what your thoughts are, and if there's anything we need to address here. Because again, too many people assume, as you said, they just go in and they're like, you're upset about this. I'm not upset at all. Or you don't think that they're upset and they are. Like giving them the floor and always making sure your audience, this is the biggest thing I always say, is when you're going into a situation or when you're ending it, wrapping it up, to try to leave your audience feeling like they can trust you, feeling like you care, that you listen to them, that you respect them. And even if you're still at odds, it's like we agree to disagree kind of thing, at least they're going to respect you at the end, right?
You bring out so many points, and then I have these questions and I lose half of them because I am listening and processing. And it strikes me that it is a real partnership. I think if for me personally, when I think about incredibly good meetings, when I think about incredibly good presentations that we've done, whether in person or virtual, I walk away personally feeling like it's been a partnership. I feel like I've gained from the audience or from the person I was speaking to as much as what I've given. And in that, it's fulfilling on both ends. That's when, for me personally, that's when I know I nailed it, is when I'm walking away feeling that I was in a partnership with somebody.
Exactly. And I'm looking at some of the chats here. Jane, I agree with you. Where is it? It went away now. Oh no, there it is. Shows great respect for them when you do your homework. Understanding who you're communicating with takes an element of respect. So it's like these viewpoints all come under the same umbrella of taking the time before, right? And being prepared. Yeah.
So when we're going through the presence and doing the due diligence ahead of time, and now we've asked the questions, what are now the next steps to build your presence on how people will perceive you and actually give you the time to listen? Because, we again, assumptions, we can assume we're going in prepared, and we can assume even in a meeting, even at home, that we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be two-way, and all of a sudden somebody shuts you down. They do their part and you go, well, wait a minute, what happened here?
I think that's messaging, Lori. I think not only preparing for anything is who's your audience, but what are the main messages that you want to convey. I think that's the best thing, that kind of preparation, and to be prepared that you could potentially be thrown off. So I can address that too. But again, who's my audience? What do you think their outcome will be? What is my desired outcome? What would I like to get out of this interaction? And in order to get there, what are the main messages I want to convey? Again, number one, making sure if you need to really connect with your audience emotional wise, like sincere compassion. If you have to address something that has happened, to face the music. If you've done something wrong, we're all human, if you're addressing an error or something that's done with poor judgment. So do I have to show and sincerely convey sincere compassion? Another really good, effective result of a good key message is influencing someone's perception about something. So if you know full well that someone has this particular mindset, what can you say that will influence their perception, change their viewpoint? And then the last one is changing behavior. So if you could say, this is what I'm doing about a particular situation, with your help, if you're able to do these changes as well, then we might be able to have a positive outcome. So messaging again. So anything that shows and is necessary for compassion and then influencing perception, changing behavior. And then again, to be prepared, well, because as you said, it can throw you off. But taking control of a conversation, being firm but pleasant is always what I say. If they interrupt you, to say, oh, please, I definitely want to hear your viewpoint, but please let me finish what I'm about to say. It's very important, I feel, for you to hear this. I think it's important to you. You know, little snippets like that to give them that respect, but to just not let a person sway you off. It takes a lot of practice, but if you're just determined to be just like, wait a second here, please, I really do need to finish. That's a good strategy.
I like that. I really do appreciate that, firm but pleasant. I had a really pleasant interaction 2 days ago where I was working with somebody and we have completely different perceptions of where insurance fits. In my world, disability happens every day. I don't open up my day without actually seeing something go along where disability is important. So I have a very biased, a very strong opinion of the necessity for insurance. And this person does not. And that's okay, because I respect them as a person. So you've done a good job in prepping me. And I went into that meeting and I'm avoiding that subject, but they're teasing a little bit. And they go, oh, you know what, I just have to ask. And they start the conversation. Bob, you know, you've been there, right? Where somebody just has to ask. And I think to myself, well, I could go and fly right off the cliff here and go right into the usual spiel. But this person already knows that. They want to have a bit of fun with it. And thinking, using that kindness and allowing them to speak first, I said, convince me. I'm actually really interested. And you know what? It took me places I didn't expect to go in the conversation. And I walked away feeling much better. Like it wasn't adversarial. So well done you for coaching me well in that. But, you know, sometimes it is important to have those hard conversations when we're leading people.
Yeah. And I want to add with that, if you know you're going into a conversation that is potentially adversarial, you know, or you're just, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. Try to get your messages out as early as possible in there. So even if they just start right away the meeting and they just throw a question at you, you could say very, again, firm, but pleasantly, I definitely feel the need to answer your question first. I'd like to say this though, and then say what you want to say, and then, you know, back to answering your question. So because then there is a better chance of them perhaps listening to you from the beginning instead of you being on the reactive. It's better to be proactive. So, I mean, it won't work all the time. It depends on who you're speaking with, but it's especially effective if you're going into a meeting that you don't feel has any hostile background at all. If it's like, then you definitely have a very good opportunity of grabbing people from the very beginning if you just try right away main messages.
Very good. We were talking recently the last couple of weeks about having conversations that are difficult conversations in a more public setting and being almost frightened to give an opinion because of the misconceptions. What do you see happening in the last few years, most especially around people jumping adversarially on bias, you know, with that accusatory, making the person who brought up the conversation the enemy, but then on that person, how to overcome that, because they don't have to be a public spotlight person anymore. They could be just somebody who's posting on Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the many social media channels and just trying to open a conversation idea. I don't know if that's a loaded question for you.
It really is. It's kind of like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, how am I going to answer that one? I'm not sure. And I'm listening.
Yeah, well, you know what, we're talking about different biases that people have. And Nicole and I have started this journey together. Actually, she brought me in and I'm a full-on adopter to it. in looking at, we talk about diversity, we talk about inclusion, and we're talking about people's bias. And most specifically on our topic is on body bias. And yet it's very difficult to brave having that conversation because there is so much ingrained bias about that. And so that's my question to you is, how do we continue to have those conversations, but protect the integrity of what we're trying to do at the same time?
I guess the first thing I would think about is just making sure you're, again, understanding your audience in advance best you can, before any kind of discussion that could have a bias, and treading lightly. I just, when you speak like that and tell me all that about bias in conversations, it's, oh, you have to be careful and pick the not battles, what's the term? Be picky about what you want to chime in on. If you feel, I guess the biggest thing, follow your gut. If your gut is saying I shouldn't, you shouldn't. I don't know if that's too vague, Lori, but
I don't think it's too vague at all. We've been really relying on the truth and the science and what we know, and keeping it to that regard. Feel free to unmute if you have questions. I shouldn't be the only one to ask Shawna questions. We're coming to the top of the hour, but ask away. 1, 3, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 0, 5, 9, 0, 5, 9. No?
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi.
Hello. Hi to everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, nice meeting you, and it's great. I'm learning a lot from you guys. My name is Alfred from Ghana.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, to start with, what happens when you are in a conversation and your partner or the other person always keeps interrupting? The other person does not allow you to talk. By the time you get the chance to make your views, time is up. So should that happen? What do you do?
It happens all the time. And thank you for your question. Very nice to meet you. It really boils down to, again, being firm but pleasant, to say, I know you have something it's very important for you to bring out, but please give me the chance. I'm hoping that if you allow me to speak, I'll be able to answer your question. And if you find that you're just not, it's just not coming through, the person is not reasonable, why even continue the conversation? It's going nowhere. And you can say, we really do need to speak a different time. Like, sometimes you just have to make that call, as much as you would really love in this particular time frame to address it and get it done. Sometimes it's just not worth it. Sometimes people are just too difficult, and you just have to realize that. But I guess the biggest thing is just letting them know, say, I respect what you have to say. I really want to give you that chance, but please give me the chance, because if you let me speak, I could possibly answer your question or address what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And the reality is we're all learning and growing. And I really appreciate you taking the time, Shawna. You help us out so much. We have a lot of takeaways here today, but my number one takeaway will continue to be the think.
You know what I want to say that's so ironic? I have these words, or the letters, like the word think, on a wood kind of sculpture thing that I picked up about 10 years ago at Home Sense or Winners, and didn't even think about it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And for years and years and years, I just didn't even pay any attention to it. And now I look at it all the time. Now it's in my head. So yes, that's a big acronym for me to take away as well.
It's, you know what, and that's what we need. We need these things in our head so that we can pull on them in the moments that we need them. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. If you liked it, share it out. We'll have it on YouTube, on our YouTube channel afterward. That's why we record it. And next week, if you want to come on back, we'd love to see you there. Jane is going to be on the show where we're going to dare. when was the last time you dared? So she's going to be on in a few weeks' time. Natasha's going to be on to talk about culture boot camp and the amazing things that she's doing and teaching leaders how to even improve already great leadership skills. And there's a lot to be learned. I'm fortunate to be taking the boot camp. And so if you want to chime in, this is the inaugural program, but she'll be doing it again. And we're going to delve into why do a boot camp if you think you know everything. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
that's boba.
Thanks, Shawna.
Thank you.